everybody. We are reading Atomic Habits by James Clear. We completed the fourth part of the video in which we learned how to build better habits in four simple steps. Now we are doing the first law, make it obvious. Starting the chapter, The Man Who Didn't Look Right. The psychologist Gary Klein once told me a story about a woman who attended a family gathering. She had spent years working as a paramedic and upon arriving the event, took one look at her father-in-law and got very concerned. "I don't like the way you look," she said. Her father-in-law, who was feeling perfectly fine, jokingly replied, "Well, I don't like your looks either." "No," she insisted, "you need to go to the hospital now." A few hours later, the man was undergoing life-saving surgery after an examination had revealed that he had a blockage to a major artery and was at immediate risk of a heart attack. Without her daughter-in-law intuition, he could have died. What did the paramedic say? How did she predict his impending heart attack? When major arteries were obstructed, the body forces on sending blood to critical organs and away from peripheral location near the surface of the skin. The result is a change in the pattern of distribution of the blood in the face. After many years of working with people with heart failure, the woman had unknowingly developed the ability to recognize this pattern on sign. She couldn't explain what it was that she noticed in her in-law's face, but she knew something was wrong. Similarly, stories exist in other fields. For example, military analysts can identify whose blimp on a radar screen as an enemy missile and which one is a plane from their own fleet, even though they are traveling at the same speed, flying at the same altitude, and look identical on the radar in nearly every respect. During the Gulf War, Lieutenant Com- Commander Michael Riley saved an entire battleship when he ordered a missile shut down, despite the fact that it looked exactly like the battleship's own planes and radar. He made the right call, but even his superior officers couldn't explain how he did it. Museum curators have been known to discern the difference between an authentic piece of art and an expertly produced counterfeit, even they even though they can't tell you precisely which details strip them off. Experienced radiologists can look at a brain scan and predict the area where a stroke will develop before and obvious signs are visible to the untrained eye. I have even heard of hairdressers noticing whether a client is pregnant based on only on the feel of her hair. The human brain is a prediction machine. It is continuously taking in your surrounding and analyzing the information it come across. Whenever you experience something repeatedly, like a paramedic seeing the face of a heart attack patient or a military analyst seeing a missile on a radar screen, your brain begins noticing what is important, sorting through the details and highlighting the relevant cues and logging the information for future use. With enough practice, you can pick up on the cues that predict certain outcomes without consciously thinking about it. Automatically, your brain encodes the lesson learned through experience. We can't always explain what is it we are learning, but learning is happening all along the way, and your ability to notice the relevant cues in a given situation is the foundation of every habit you have. We underestimate how much our brains and bodies can do without thinking. You do not tell your hair to grow, your heart to pump, your lungs to breathe, or your stomach to digest, and yet your body handles all this and more on autopilot. You are much more than your conscious self. Consider hunger. How do you know when you are hungry? You don't necessarily have to see a cookie on a counter to realize that it is time to eat. Appetite and hunger are governed non consciously. Your body has a variety of feedback loops that gradually alerts you when it is time to eat again, and that track what is going on around you and within you. Craving can arise thanks to hormones and chemicals circulating through your body. Suddenly you are hungry even though you are not quite sure what tripped you off. This is one of the most surprising insight about your habits. You don't need to be aware of the cue for habit to begin. You can notice an opportunity and take action without dedicating conscious attention to it. This is what makes habit useful. It's also what makes them dangerous. As habit form, your action comes under the direction of your automatic and non-conscious mind. You fall into old patterns before you realize what's happening. Unless someone points it out, you may not notice that you cover your mouth with your hands whenever you laugh, that you apologize before making a question, or that you have a habit of finishing other people's sentences. And the more you repeat this pattern, the less likely you become to question what you are doing and why you are doing it. I once heard of a retail clerk who was instructed to cut up empty gift cards after customers had used up the balance on the card. One day, the clerk cast out a few customers in a row who processed with gift cards. When the next person walked up, the clerk swiped the customer's actual credit card, picked up the scissors, and then cut it in half entirely on autopilot. Looking up at the stunned customer and realizing what had just happened. Another woman I came across in my research was a former preschool teacher who has switched to a corporate job. Even though she was not working with adults, her old habits would kick in and she kept asking co-workers if they had washed their hands after going to the bathroom. I also found the story of a man who had spent years working as a lifeguard and would occasionally yell work whenever he saw a child running. Over time, the cues that spark our habits become so common that they are essentially invisible. The treats on the kitchen counter, the remote control next to the couch, the phone in our pocket. Our responses to this cue are so deeply encoded that it may feel like the urge to act become from nowhere. For this reason, we must begin the process of behavior change with awareness. Before we can effectively build new habits, we need to get a handle on our current ones. This can be more challenging than it sounds because once a habit is firmly rooted in your life, it is mostly non-conscious and automatic. If a habit remains mindless, you can't expect to improve it. As a psychologist, Carl Jung, said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. The habit scorecard. The Japanese railway system is regarded as one of the best in the world. If you ever find yourself riding a train in Tokyo, you'll notice that the conductor have a peculiar habit. As each operator runs the train, they proceed through a ritual of pointing at different objects and calling out commands. When the train approaches a signal, the operator will point at it and say, "Signal is green." As the train pulls into and out of each station, the operator will point at the speedometer and call out the extra speed. When it's time to leave, the operator will point at the timetable and state the time. Out of the platform, other employees are performing similar action. Before each train departs, staff members will point along the edge of the platform and declare all clear. Every detail is identified, pointed at, and named aloud. This process, known as pointing and calling, is a safety system designed to reduce mistakes. It seems silly, but it works incredibly well. Pointing and calling reduces error by up to 85% and cuts accident by 30%. The MTA subway system in New York City adopted a modified version that is point only, and within 2 years of implementation, incidents of incorrectly birthed subway fell 57%. Pointing and calling is so effective because it raises the level of awareness of from a non-conscious habit to a more conscious level. Because the train operators must use their eye, hands, mouth and ears, they are more likely to notice problem before something goes wrong. My wife does something similar. Whenever we are preparing to walk out the door for a trip, she verbally calls out the most essential items in her packing list. I have got my keys, I have got my wallet, I have got my glasses, I have got my husband. The more automatic a behavior becomes, the less likely we are to consciously think about it. And when we have done something 1,000 times before, we begin to overlook things. We assume that the next time we will be just like the last. We are so used to doing what we have always done that we don't stop to question whether it is right thing to do at all. Many of our failures in performance are largely attributable to a lack of self-awareness. One of our greatest challenges in challenging habit is maintaining awareness of what we are actually doing. This helps explain why the conscious consequences of bad habits can sneak up on us. We need a point and call system for our personal lives. That's the origin of the habit scorecard, which is a simple exercise you can use to become more aware of your behavior. To create your own, make a list of your daily habits. Here's a sample of where your list might start. Wake up, turn off alarm, check my phones, go to the bedroom, weigh myself, take a shower, brush my teeth, floss my teeth, put on deodorant, hang up towel to dry, get dressed, make a cup of tea, and so on. Once you have a full list, look at each behavior and ask yourself, is this a good habit, a bad habit, or a neutral habit? If it is a good habit, write plus next to it. If it is bad habit, write minus. If it is neutral habit, write equal to. For example, the list above might look like this. Wake up is equals to turn off alarm, check my phone, go to the bedroom, weigh myself, take a shower, brush my teeth, floss my teeth, plus put on deodorant, plus hang up the towel, equal to get dressed, equal to make a cup of tea, plus. The marks you give to a particular habit will depend on your situation and your goals. For someone who is trying to lose weight, eating a bagel with peanut butter every morning might be a bad habit. For someone who is trying to bulk up and add muscle, the same behavior might be a good habit. It all depends on what you are working towards. Scoring your habits can be bit more complex for another reason as well. The labels good habit and the bad habits are slightly inaccurate. There are no good habits or bad habits. There are only effective habits, that is effective at solving problems. All habits serve you in some way, even the bad ones, which is why you repeat them. For this exercise, categorizing your habits by how they will benefit you in the long run. Generally speaking, good habits will have net positive outcomes, bad habits have net negative outcomes. Smoking a cigarette may reduce stress right now. That's how it's serving you. But it's not a healthy long term behavior. If you are still having trouble determining how to rate a particular habit, there is a question I like to use. Does this behavior help me become the type of the person I wish to be? Does this habit cast a vote for or against my desired this identity? Habits that reinforce your desired identity are usually good. Habits that conflict with your desired identity are usually bad. As you create your habit scorecard, there is no need to change anything at first. The goal is to simply notice what is actually going on, observe your thoughts and action without judgment or internal criticism. Don't blame yourself for your faults. Don't praise yourself for your successes. If you eat a chocolate bar every morning, acknowledge it almost as if you were watching someone else. Oh, how interesting that they would do such a thing. If you being it simply notice that you are eating more calories than you should. If you waste time online, notice that you are spending your life in a way that you do not want to. The step change the first step to changing bad habits is to be on the lookout for them. If you feel like you need extra help, then you can try pointing and calling in your own life. Say out loud the action that you are thinking of taking and what the outcome will be. If you want to cut back on your junk food habit but notice yourself grabbing another cookie, say out loud, I am about to eat this cookie, but I don't need it. Eating it will cause me to gain weight and hurt my health. Hearing your bad habits spoken aloud makes the consequences seems more real. It adds weight to the action rather than letting yourself mindlessly slip into an old routine. This approach is useful even if you are simply trying to remember a task on your to-do list. Just saying out loud, tomorrow I need to go to the post office after lunch, increases the odds that you will actually do it. You are getting yourself to acknowledge the need for action, and that can make all the difference. The process of behavior change always starts with awareness. Strategies like pointing and calling and the habit scorecards are focused on getting you to recognize your habits and acknowledge the cues that trigger them, which makes it possible to respond in a way that benefits you. Chapter summary. With enough practice, your brain will pick up on the cues that predict certain outcome without consciously thinking about it. Once our habit becomes automatic, we stop paying attention to what we are doing. The process of behavior change always starts with awareness. You need to be aware of your habits before you can change them. Pointing and calling raises your level of awareness from a non conscious habit to a more conscious level by verbalizing your action. The habits scorecard is a simple exercise you can use to become more aware of your behavior. Okay, this chapter is completed. Now we'll be doing the best way to start a new habit. In 2001, researchers in Great Britain began working with 248 people to build better exercise habits over the course of 2 weeks. The subjects were divided into three groups. The first group was the control group. They were simply asked to track how often they exercised. The second group was the motivation group. They were asked not only to track their workout but also to read some material on the benefits of exercise. Researchers also explained to the group how exercise could reduce the risks of coronary disease, heart disease, and improve heart health. Finally, there was the third group. This subject received the same presentation as the second group, which ensured that they had equal level of motivation. However, they were also asked to formulate a plan for when and where they would exercise over the following weeks. Specifically, each member of the third group completed the following sentence. During the next week, I will partake in at least 20 minutes of vigorous exercise on day at time in place. In the first and second groups, 35 to 38% of people exercised at least once per week. Interestingly, the motivation presentation given the second group seems to have no meaningful impact on behavior, but 91% of the third group exercised at least once per week, more than double the normal rate. The sentence they filled out in what research referred to as an implementation intention, which is a plan you make beforehand about when and where to act. This is how you intend to implement a particular habit. The cue that can trigger a habit comes in a wide range of forms: the feel of your phone buzzing in your pocket, the smell of chocolate chip cookies, the sound of ambulance sirens, but the two most common cues are time and location. Implementation, intention, leverage both of their cues. Broadly speaking, the format for creating and implementing intention is: when situation X arises, I will perform response Y. Hundreds of studies have shown that implementing intention are effective for sticking to our goals, whether it's writing down the exact time and date of when you will get a flu shot or recording the time of your colonoscopy appointment. They increase the odds that people will stick with habits like recycling, studying, going to sleep early, and stopping smoking. Researchers have even found that voter turnout increases when people are forced to create implementation intention by answering questions like: what routine are you taking to the polling station? At what time you are planning to go? What bus will you get there? What bus will get you there? Other successful government programs has prompted citizens to make a clear plan to send taxes in on time or provided direction on when and where to pay late traffic bills. The punchline is clear: people who make a specific plans for when and where they will perform a new habit are more likely to follow through. Too many people try to change their habits without these basic details figured out. We tell ourselves, I'm going to eat healthier or I'm going to write more, but we never say when and where these habits are going to happen. We leave it up to chance and hope that we will just remember to do it, or feel motivated at the right time. At implementation, intention sweeps away fog notation like I want to work out more, or I want to be more productive, or I should vote, and transform them into a concrete plan of action. Many people think they lack motivation when what they really lack is clarity. It is not always obvious when and where to take action. Some people spend their entire lives waiting for the time to be right to make an improvement. Once an implementation intention has been set, you don't have to wait for inspiration to strike. Do I write a chapter today or not? Do I meditate this morning or at lunch? When the moment of action occurs, there is no need to take a decision. Simply follow your predetermined plan. The simple way to apply this strategy to your habit is to fill out this sentence: I will behavior at time in location. Meditate: I will meditate for 1 minute at 7 a.m. in my kitchen. Studying: I will study Spanish for 20 minutes at 6 p.m. in my bedroom. Exercise: I will exercise for 1 hour at 5 p.m. in my local gym. Marriage: I will make my partner a cup of tea at 8 a.m. in the kitchen. If you aren't sure when to start your habit, try the first day of the week, month, or year. People are more likely to take action at those time because hopes is usually higher. If you have hope, you have a reason to take action. A fresh start feels motivating. There is another benefit to implementation intention. Being specific about what you want and how you will achieve it helps you say no to things that detail progress, distract your attention, and pull you off course. We often say yes to little requests because we are not clear enough about what we need to be doing instead. When your dreams are vague, it's necessary to rationalize little expectation all day long and never get around to the specific things you need to do to succeed. Uh, Give your habit a time and space to live in the world. The goal is to make the time and location so obvious that with enough repetition you get an urge to do the right things at the right time, even if you can't say why. As the writer Jensen Zwick noted, obviously you are never going to just work out without conscious thought, but like a dog salivating at a bell, maybe you start to get antsy around the time of day you normally work out. There are many ways to use implementation intention in your life and work. My favorite approach is one I learned from Stanford professor B.J. Fogg, and it is a strategy I refer to a habit stacking. Habit stacking, a simple plan to overhaul your habits. A French philosopher, Denis Diderot, lived nearly his entire life in a poverty, but that all changed one day in 1765. Diderot's daughter was about to be married and he could not afford to pay for the wedding. Despite his lack of wealth, Diderot was well known for his role as the co-founder and the writer of Encyclopédie, one of the most comprehensive encyclopedias of the time. When Catherine the Great, the Empress of Russia, heard of Diderot's financial trouble, her heart went out to him. She was a book lover and greatly enjoyed his encyclopedia. She offered to buy Diderot's personal library for $1,000, more than one stint, 100,000, 1,50,000 today. Suddenly Diderot has money to spare. With his new wealth, he not only paid for the wedding but also acquired a scarlet robe for himself. Diderot's scarlet robe was beautiful, so beautiful in fact that he immediately noticed how out of place it seemed when surrounded by his more common possessions. He wrote that there was no more coordination, no more unity, no more beauty between his elegant robe and the rest of his stuff. Diderot soon felt the urge to upgrade his possessions. He replaced his rug with one from Damascus. He decorated his home with expensive sculptures. He bought a mirror to place above the mantel and a better kitchen table. He tossed aside his old straw chair for a leather one. Like failing dominoes, one purchase led to the next. Diderot behavior is not uncommon. In fact, the tendency for one purchase to lead to another one has a name, the Diderot effect. The Diderot effect states that obtaining a new possession often creates a spiral of consumption that leads to additional purchases. You can spot this pattern everywhere. You buy a dress and have to get new shoes and earrings to match. You buy a couch and suddenly question the layout of your entire living room. You buy a toy for your child and soon find yourself purchasing all of the accessories that go with it. It's chain reaction of purchases. Many human behavior follow this cycle. You often decide what to do next based on what you have just finished doing. Going to the bedroom leads to washing and drying your hands, which reminds you that you need to put the dirty towels in the laundry. So you add laundry detergent to the shopping list and so on. No behavior happens in isolation. Each action becomes a cue that triggers the next behavior. Why is this important? When it comes to building new habits, you can use the connectedness of behavior to your advantage. One of the best way to build a new habit is to identify a current habit you already do each day and then stack your new behavior on top. This is called habit stacking. Habit stacking is a special form of an implementation intention. Rather than pairing your new habit with a particular time and location, you pair it with a current habit. This method, which was created by BJ Fogg as part of his Tiny Habits program, can be used to design an obvious cue for nearly any habit. The habit stacking formula is: after current habits, I will new habit. For example, meditation. After I pour my cup of tea each morning, I will meditate for 1 minute. Exercise. After I take off my work shoes, I will immediately change into my workout clothes. Gratitude. After I sit down to dinner, I will say one thing I am grateful for that happened today. Marriage. After I get into bed at night, I will give my partner a kiss. Safety. After I put on my running shoes, I will uh, give a friend or family member what I am running and how long it will take. The key is to tie your desired behavior into something you already do each day. Once you have mastered this basic structure, you can begin to create larger stack by chaining small habits together. This allows you to take advantage of the natural momentum that comes from one behavior leading to the next, a positive version of the Deloitte effect. Your morning routine habit stack might look like this. After I pour my morning cup of coffee, I will meditate for 60 seconds. After I meditate for 60 seconds, I will write my to-do list for the day. After I write my to-do list for the day, I will immediately begin my first task or consider this habit stack in the evening. After I finish eating dinner, I will put my plate directly into the dishwasher. After I put my dishes away, I will immediately wipe down the counter. After I wipe down the counter, I will set out my coffee mug for tomorrow morning. You can also insert new behavior into the middle of your current routines. For example, you may already have a morning routine that looks like this: wake up, make my bed, take a shower. Let's say you want to develop the habit of reading more each night. You can expand your habit stack and try something like: wake up, make my bed, place a book on my pillow, take a shower. Now, when you climb into bed each night, a book will be sitting there waiting for you to enjoy. Overall, habit stacking allows you to create a set of simple rules that guide your future behavior. It's like you always have a game plan for which actions would come next. Once you get comfortable with this approach, you can develop general habit stacking to guide you whenever the situation is appropriate. Exercise. When I see a set of stairs, I will take them instead of using the elevator. Social skill. When I walk into a party, I will introduce myself to someone I don't know yet. Finances. When I want to buy something over $100, I will wait 24 hours before purchasing. Healthy eating. When I serve myself a meal, I will always put veggies on my plate first. Minimalizing. Minimalism. When I buy a new item, I will give something away. One in, one out. Mood. When the phone rings, I will take one deep breath and smile before answering. Forgetfulness. When I leave a public place, I will check the table and chairs to make sure I don't leave anything behind. No matter how you use this strategy, the secret to create a successful habit stack is selecting the right cue to kick things off. Unlike an implementation intention which specifically states the time and location for a given behavior. Habit stacks implicitly has the time and location built into it. When and where you choose to insert a habit into your daily routines can make a big difference. You are trying to add meditation into your morning routine, but morning are chaotic and your kids keep running into the room, then that may be the wrong place and time. Consider when you are more likely to be successful. Don't ask yourself to do a habit when you are likely to be occupied with something else. Your cue should also have the same frequency as your desired habit. If you want to do a habit every day but you stack it on top of a habit that only happens on Mondays, that's not a good choice. One way to find the right trigger for your habit stack is by brainstorming a list of your current habits. You can use your habit scorecards for the last chapter as a starting point. Alternatively, you can create a list with two columns. In the first column, write down the habit you do each day without fail. For example, get out of bed, take a shower, brush your teeth, dress up, brew a cup of coffee, eat breakfast, take the kids to school, start the work day, eat lunch, end the work day, change out of work clothes, sit down for dinner, turn off the lights, go to into bed. Your list can be much longer, but yeah, you get the idea. In the second column, write down all of things that happen to you each day without fail. For example, the sun rises, you get a text message, the song you are listening to ends, the sun sets. Armed with these two lists, you can begin searching for the best place to layer your new habits into your lifestyle. Habit stacking works best with the cue is highly specific and immediately actionable. Many people select cues that are too vague. I made this mistake myself. When I wanted to start a push up habit, my habit stack was when I take a break for lunch, I will do 10 push ups. At first glance, that sounded reasonable, but soon I realized the trigger was unclear. Would I do my push up before I ate lunch? After I ate lunch? Where would I do them? After a few inconsistent days, I changed my habit stack to when I close my laptop for lunch, I will do 10 push ups next to my desk. Ambiguously gone. Habits like read more or eat better are worthy causes, but these goals do not provide instruction on how and when to act. Be specific and clear. After I close the door, after I brush my teeth, after I sit down at the table, the specificity is important. The more tightly bound your new habit is to a specific cue, the better the odds are that you will notice when the time comes to act. The first law of behavior change is to make it obvious. Strategies like implementation, intention, and habit stacking are among the most practical ways to create obvious cues for your habits and design a clear plan for when and where to take action. Chapter summary. The first law of behavior change is make it obvious. The two most common cues are time and location. Creating an implementation intention is a strategy you can use to pair a new habit with a specific time and location. The implementation intention formula is I will behavior at time in location. Habit stacking is a strategy you can use to pair a new habit with a current habit. The habit stacking formula is after current habit, I will new habit.
Reading together is always fun, so like my video, comment, share, and subscribe, and hit the bell icon so that you can be notified every time I upload a new video. And thank you so much for being there till the very end of the video. See you next time. Stay healthy, stay happy. Bye bye.